Hello and welcome to my Euclid tour today. I'm going to give a demonstration about a few specific areas of preparing a poison centre notification. So in today's demonstration, I'm going to show some of the areas that I found we get asked most questions about. So I'm going to start with just a general tour of Euclid. We'll look at the dashboard as well as behind the scenes, and I'll show you how to manage and clone entities outside of a notification. We'll next look at some special features such as copying data from a dossier into a new dataset, as well as changing and switching legal entities. Then I'd like to show how to clone and edit a dataset. For example, if you would like to make a new notification after a significant change of composition. Also, we do get quite many questions about how to compile a mixture composition document when preparing a notification for a 100% mixture in mixture. And finally, I want to show how easy it is to manage product information documents. For example, if you have multiple sets of product information for one specific mixture. So as you can see, my demonstration today isn't a step-by-step from start to finish. I've already done that, and you can see my video tutorials on the Poison Centre website. So as this is a Euclid tour, we are working in Euclid, and you have two options. You can work online in the Euclid cloud, provided you have an active cloud subscription, or you can download the latest version from the Euclid 6 website, and the links are available in the screen. We also have quite a lot of detailed support on our Poison Centre website, but two main areas of support I'd like to draw your attention to is our regulatory support, which is our guidance on Annex 8, and our practical support, which is the PCN Practical Guide. And of course, help is always available. We do ask, though, if you have any regulatory issues or questions, that you contact your national help desk first. If you have other issues related to our IT tools or the submission process, please do contact us through our contact form. And finally, we also have a growing LinkedIn community, which I encourage you to join. We post updates regularly, and you can interact and ask questions from us as well as other group members. So we've got a lot to get through, so let's get started. Okay, so here we've arrived at the Euclid dashboard, and on the dashboard screen, we have a number of widgets, as you can see, one for substances, one for mixtures, and one for articles. And there's also an import area to import reference substances, or in this case, as I'm demonstrating, a legal entity. But for the main part of your Poison Centre notifications, these will be created and managed here in the Mixtures widget. But of course, your mixtures will contain substances or mixture components, and these will be visible in these widgets. Just to point out that the Articles widget is not used at all for Poison Centre notifications. Rather, it's only used for preparing skip notifications. Let's take a quick trip to the top bar. We have a question mark here, and within this little pop-up box, you can see we have Q&As, and these will link to Q&As for the cloud and portal, but also for a specific regulatory context, such as Poison Centre notifications or skip. There's also the possibility to create a support request. If you select technical, this should go to our IT contractor if it is an IT problem. If it is more of a business problem, you can select the category And this could be, for example, if you have failed a validation rule and you'd like to know how to fix it, then this will also go to our IT contractor, but it will be redirected to the ECHA help desk. There's another tab here which will redirect you to some additional information on the cloud if you're interested, as well as quite many video tutorials about how to work in Euclid in general. This bell icon here is where we would list any general notifications, such as downtime or perhaps scheduled maintenance activities. But please note that ECHA doesn't send any specific notifications to you, for example, about a submission. Here you can see my username as well as my legal entity name. And this question mark here, this links to Euclid's functionality manual, which you can select in your preferred language. It is a technical manual, and it does contain quite a lot of information about how Euclid works in general. Highly recommend it. One other area I'd like to draw your attention to is the menu icon on the left side of the page. And from this icon, it's possible to manage various entities outside of a notification. Most useful to Poison Center notification users are the contacts, legal entity, and reference substance. So let's take a quick look at contacts. Here you can see a list of all the contacts that are featured in my notifications. Of course, I can create a new contact. I can open up a contact and edit. I can select and export, delete, and even search for contacts as well. One thing I would like to show you is how to actually clone a contact. When you press on these three dots, you can select clone, and cloning is useful if you would like to change some information about a person. You may want to update the contact information. You might want to change the contact type, for example, can also be performed. Of course, you may want to make changes to the name because it will contain the ending clone. And once we press save, we can go back to the contacts list, and you can see here now I've got a clone of this contact with some slightly different edited information. But coming back to the next part of this demonstration, let's look at some special features when preparing a notification. In this part of the demonstration, I'll explain a little on how to use the feature copy data from, and also we'll check and change the legal entity. So now we're going to go into the mixtures widget, and here all my data sets for my mixture notifications, as well as any mixture in mixture or MIM data sets are listed here as well. In the Dossiers tab, you can see all of the dossiers that I've created or perhaps even imported. But back in the datasets is where we want to work right now. Similar to the contacts, I can select certain datasets and export and delete, and I can even clone as well. But we'll look at that a little later. But for the purposes of this demonstration, I would first need to create a new mixture dataset. So I've created the data set, and you can see on the left side of the screen in the table of contents, we have the full Euclid format listed here, but we only want to see the PCN related fields. So we need to change the working context to Poison Center notification. And once we apply those changes and open the table of contents again, you can see that the number of sections has been reduced, and it's an empty data set. There are no documents except for this one here on the mixture information and product identity, which is this what we're looking at on the screen here. So next we click on the three dots and we select Copy Data From. Now, the Copy Data From feature is useful if you have information in a mixture or even in a dossier that you would like to transfer to a new data set. So let's look at copying information from a dossier. So we need to select Dossier, and then we make the relevant selection. And then we need to select which documents we wish to copy over. So we can select all, as you can see here, or we can select just some parts of that dossier. I would like to copy all of the information over. So I make the selection and select Copy. And now when we go back to the table of contents, you can see that I have a lot more documents that have been populated in this data set. I need to also point out here that there are some aspects of the dossier or notification that are not copied over, and this is primarily the dossier header. So I can click on the dossier header, which is this pen and paper symbol, and I need to now fill in the information in the dossier header. Back over into the table of contents, we can open the mixture composition, and we can also see that the mixture composition document has been carried over, and you can see that it also carries this label as copy. We can open up the mixture composition document, and you can see that the substances have been listed and the concentrations have been listed as well. However, I need to point out that currently, if you do copy information from a dossier that was imported into your working instance, it may mean that links to various entities, such as the substances linked to the mixture composition, may not be carried over. One other important area to check is the legal entity. This is located in the mixture identity and legal submitter section. So here you can see that the legal entity owner's name, and if you click on the legal entity document itself, you can see the legal entity UUID. Now, this UUID number often has the prefix ECHA, not always, but quite often, and this all depends where the legal entity was created. In any case, this UUID number is checked against the logged in user of the portal at the time of submission. And if there's a mismatch, the submission will fail a validation rule. So it's very important to check this information here. If for some reason you do need to change a legal entity, perhaps you want to prepare a notification for another company, or perhaps another company's details are present or indicated here, you would need to remove this particular legal entity. So we come up one level, and here, once we click here, we can remove the reference to this legal entity, and we can select from the list available, and I'm going to select the one that I imported just earlier. Bear in mind that as a foreign user, you will be able to see the information in this other account, such as the information in the dataset, but also the dossiers as well. Okay, in this third part of the demonstration, you can see that I'm still working as my own user, but in another account as a foreign user. So let's take a look at the mixture listing because I want to explain a little more about cloning and editing a data set. So cloning a data set really creates an exact replica of another data set, and this feature may be useful, for example, if you would like to make a new notification after a significant change of composition. So once we find the relevant data set, we click on the three dots and select clone. Now we might want to update the name of the mixture. And we can open up that data set. Once it's cloned, we will need to provide the working context to Poison Center notifications and apply those changes. Of course, if we are looking at a significant change of composition, we will need to make additional changes to the content of the notification as well and modify the relevant sections. But first off, let's check the dossier header by clicking on the pen and paper icon. I always recommend starting here as it does create the language specific fields, and of course it sets the framework of the notification. In any case, you can always edit it later. You can enter a dossier name if it is helpful for you, and perhaps a remark. But a PCN number is mandatory information. Now, it's quite simple by just to generate a PCN number by clicking on the circular arrows. We can indicate the market areas. They may be the same or they may be different. And as well as the language. The submission type is set by default to standard information requirements. So you only need to make a selection here if you are deviating from those standard information requirements. You can see here in the notification type that we have a selection of initial, new notification after a significant change of composition, and just regular updates. When you do make an update, you are required to provide a justification as well. But we want to make a notification for a significant change of composition, so we select that box. So we've saved the dossier header, and now we will come back to the main content of the notification. Next, we would look at including the PCN number of the previously related submission in the identifier section. So let's come back to our previously related product, which was scented candle. And in the dossier header, we would copy the PCN number and we would place it in the product identity section under UFI and other identifiers. So we can open up this here and we can add a new item which is called CLP related PCN number. Then we can paste that number and now it's included into the identifier section. One thing we need to address here is the UFI number. This UFI number is linked to the previous mixture composition, so this must be updated as well. So we would remove that reference and enter the new UFI number for this updated mixture composition. If we've updated our mixture composition, it would mean that we need to include this information in the mixture composition document. So I can either delete the whole mixture composition document and start again, or I can make additions into the document that I already have. I can, of course, update the concentration. And I can also update the particular types of components as well. Of course, if there are other changes to make to the notification, then these should also be edited as well. And once all the changes are made, the dataset can be validated and a dossier created. And if we're working in the cloud, we can proceed to submission. In this next part of the demonstration, I'd like to explain a little how to compile a mixture composition document if you are notifying a 100% mixture in mixture or MIM. Now, I've already created a dataset for this purpose, so let's begin by opening it up and having a look at the mixture composition document. So here we have an empty composition document and we need to create a new item to put our MIM component into the list. One thing I'd like to point out here or remind you here that if you know the full composition of a MIM, then you would need to add each component as a substance, not as a MIM. If you do not know the full composition of the mixture, so in this case, this is when you would add a mixture component. So you can make a selection from the list available, but I don't have one for this purpose, so I'm going to create a new MIM document. We need to add the name of the mixture as supplied to us and indicate a legal entity. This legal entity is only a IUCLID requirement, but it is not a PCN requirement. So it is not checked at all, which means that you can add an undefined company name, or you could even add your own legal entity as well. We save that information. And then we need to indicate the concentration. We indicate the typical concentration, which in PCN terms means the exact concentration. One important area I would like to point out is these 3 specific component types here. Now, these component types are to be used in very specific circumstances which are outlined in the legal text. So you are advised not to use them if the conditions allowing their use are not met. Now, if you're unsure as to whether or not you can use them, we do have help text available, but we also have very informative guidance documents and manuals as well on the topic. So we save this information and then we can come over to the MIM document. Well, you can see a MIM document has been created. So we have the trade name of our mixture as supplied to us, and a MIM document has been created with a number of sections to be filled in. Now, it all depends what information you have available to you as to how you are required to complete the information. But in any case, I'm going to go through each section here today. In some cases, you will have information about the components, for example, from the SDS. So you would be expected to include this data in the MIM composition. So we create a new document and we would add the substance components here. Just to point out that only substance components can be added to a MIM composition, not another MIM within a MIM. So we add a substance component. Now I'm going to use one that I've already created earlier. And we provide the concentration as an example. So once I save that, I can go back to the table of contents and I can open up the composition and I can see that this substance has been added now. When I further open it up, I would like to point out that you need to make sure that each substance within the MIM, it has been linked to a reference substance and that a classification and labeling document has been added and completed for at least the classification. If you're unsure about how to create and link reference substances, you can check our e-learning page for a very specific video which explains more about this topic. The next section is the MIM UFI. This is the UFI that, if available, is the one supplied to you. So you would create a new item and enter in the UFI regulatory program and include the UFI number in the ID field. When we get to MIM suppliers, remember that this information in your dossier is crucial in case the appointed bodies need further information. Therefore, the MIM supplier should be EU-based. Now, you can create a legal entity, or rather a supplier, by providing the details of the legal entity name, the telephone number, and the email address. However, if you've already entered this information before, then you can always make a selection from the list as I've done here. The classification and labeling section also needs to be completed. But note that the labeling is not required for components, and this can be included at the main mixture level. And then finally, the safety data sheet section. You can always create a document and upload a safety data sheet. It is possible to do that if you wish so, but please note there is no specific requirement to do so. If you choose to do so voluntarily, you can upload a file, select the country and the language. So staying within this 100% MIM dataset, I'd like to show in this final part of the demonstration how you can manage product information within a notification. Why would you want to do this? Well, if you have various or multiple pieces of product information that you would like to keep separate from each other, you can do so. And what I mean here is if you have, for example, multiple UFIs or maybe multiple trade names or market areas, and you'd like to keep that information separately organized. This is very easy to do in the notification. So I've already prepared one information document for Italy. And here you can see I've relabeled the information document. I have one trade name. I have one UFI, and I have various pieces of information about the color and physical state, the packaging, the uses, and of course, the country as well. Now, let's assume that I have different information for this same mixture. I may place it on a different market. It may have a different trade name or maybe a different UFI, whatever. I can enter this information as separate items. So I can select new item and add trade name number 2. I can add a new UFI item and add UFI number 2. And I can include different information about the packaging or uses if relevant and select an additional country. This is all possible, but if you would like to manage and keep your information separate to make updating, for example, easier, you can always select a new document and we can add this separate information here. So I may want to give it this information document another name. I can add a second trade name. And I can do the same for the UFI as well. Note with the UFI, I can add or create a new item, or if I choose to, I can also make a selection from the first UFI product record for Italy and reuse that UFI as well. It's also possible to reuse information in the color and physical state, as well as the packaging. I can also select the same or different use types as well. As well as the main intended use. And select the country for market placement. And then I can save all of that information. And now you can see I've got two nice and neatly organized product information documents. Thanks so much for your attention today.